Direct News TV. February 10, 2024. Israel's war on Gaza, no homes, no hope, in Rafah, UN chief. Gaza's health ministry says 117 Palestinians have been killed and 152 wounded during the past 24 hours. As Israel intensifies its attacks on Rafah, people are now escaping to the central part of the Gaza Strip about 20 kilometers, 8 miles, away. Palestinian man dies in West Bank after being shot by Israeli soldiers. Our colleagues at Al Jazeera Arabic and the Rafah news agency are reporting that Muhammad Ahmad Muhammad Kadur, a resident of the town of Biddu, north of West Jerusalem, has died. Just 19 years old, he was shot in the head by Israeli soldiers while in a vehicle in Karb al-Lam, before being rushed to the Palestine Medical Complex in Ramallah. He died of his wounds there. Israeli snipers kill Palestinians in Gaza. At least 21 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli snipers since Thursday. Several killed in Deir el-Balah attack, Red Crescent. The Palestine Red Crescent Society says 4 people were killed and 8 injured in the central Gaza city following an attack on the Al-Haqq area. Deir el-Balah has become the target of relentless air raids by the Israeli army since the war began on October 7. Nablus is being raided by Israeli forces. Video verified by Al Jazeera shows that a raid has begun on the Alawite cooperation area in the occupied West Bank city. The video shows Israeli army vehicles in the streets of the city. Earlier, we reported on a raid taking place in Hebron, also in the occupied West Bank. These raids by Israeli security forces are a daily occurrence there, often leading to vandalism of Palestinian homes and businesses, clashes between soldiers and residents, injuries, arrests and even deaths. EU diplomat says Israeli offensive in Rafah will lead to humanitarian catastrophe. Furthermore, the European Union's top foreign policy chief Josep Borrell said the offensive would also result in grave tensions between Israel and Egypt. Release of hostages and resumption of negotiations to fit hostilities is the only way to prevent bloodshed, he posted on X. Israelis' forces raid town in Qalqilia. Our colleagues are reporting that Israeli soldiers have stormed the occupied West Bank town of Azan. Earlier, Israeli forces also raided the Al-Dar area in the town of Beit Umar in Hebron. More than 6,900 Palestinians have been arrested in the occupied West Bank since the war on Gaza began on October 7. Israeli media reports say many details of Israeli Rafah assault still not finalized. As the nearly 2 million displaced Palestinians in Rafah wait in terror for the Israeli army to follow through with its stated plans to begin a ground operation against the city, reports from media outlets within Israel say the assault may not be starting as soon as expected. Newspaper Haaretz is reporting that the Israeli government has not concluded the details of the Rafah operation with Egypt, specifically how to handle action against Hamas's tunnels that cross from Gaza into Egyptian territory. For this and other reasons, the newspaper says, citing a source familiar with Israeli War Cabinet deliberation, a date for the beginning of the assault has not yet been set. Supporting the assertion that the operation is not imminent is a report from broadcaster Channel 12, which says that while an attack plan has been finalized by the Israeli army, no green light has been given from the government. Prominent members of the international community have been drawing attention all week to the dire humanitarian consequences of any attack on Rafah. Hind Rajab's death shows defenselessness of Palestinians in Gaza. Political commentator Noor Odeh says the deaths of Hind Rajab and 2 paramedics are evidence of how brutal the continuing war is. Rajab, a 6-year-old Palestinian girl who had been missing for 12 days after an Israeli tank targeted her family's car in Gaza, was found along with the bodies of 2 medics dispatched to look for them. It brings into very sharp focus how defenseless these civilians are, and how impossible the work of paramedics and first responders, and doctors is, she told Al Jazeera. We've seen the killing of dozens of paramedics, first responders, and doctors over the past 4 months, she added. Some of them were shot inside hospital compounds, in addition to patients. Odeh said Rajab's death should be a wake-up call for the international community. The question is, will we see countries spring to action? We saw them spring to action to defend, for example, the one organization, UNRWA, that is able to help and provide humanitarian aid to Palestinians in Gaza on no evidence, she added. And yet all of this insurmountable evidence and the ICJ order saying that Israel must stop any genocidal acts, yet we see very little in the way of action by states that can make a difference. UK's Cameron the latest to express concern about impending Rafah assault. A number of high-profile people, from top UN and government officials to the leaders of major NGOs, have sounded the alarm on Israel's planned military operation in Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip. The UK's Foreign Secretary is the latest to add his voice to the chorus, drawing attention to the fact that over half of Gaza's population are sheltering there. The priority must be an immediate pause in the fighting to get aid in and hostages out, then progress towards a sustainable, permanent ceasefire, he wrote in an X post. Who calls for immediate release of staff, patients at Al-Amal Hospital. The director of the UN Health Agency Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says reports of the Israeli raid into the Khan Yunis hospital and the detention of health staff and patients are extremely concerning. We urge for patients and health workers' immediate release. Health personnel, patients and facilities must be protected at all times, he posted on X. We previously reported that the Palestinian Red Crescent Society had said its headquarters in Al-Amal Hospital were being raided by Israeli forces. One person killed in Israeli bombing in central Gaza. Our colleagues are reporting an Israeli attack on a home in Deir el-Balah, leading to the death of one woman and the injury of several other Palestinians. Deir el-Balah, an area that has been largely designated as safe in the initial weeks of the war, has become the target of relentless air raids by the Israeli army. Quds brigades say they carried out multiple attacks in Khan Yunis. Fighters of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad say that, after returning from frontline areas in the west of the city, they took the following actions. Quds fighters attacked a group of Israeli soldiers inside a house with a rocket, killing and wounding several. They said that an Israeli position in the Al-Hawaz area was targeted with a barrage of mortar shells. Fighters from the group clashed with Israeli soldiers and vehicles using machine guns and explosives. Netanyahu wants to remobilize Israeli army reservists for Rafah operation. The Israeli Prime Minister urged Israeli Army Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi to recruit again reservists who had been released from military service, Israeli broadcaster Channel 13 reports. Halevi's response, according to the report, was to tell Netanyahu that the army can handle any task. Channel 13 goes on to say, citing a senior Israeli official, that the army's Rafah operation is getting closer to starting, but that coordination with the Egyptians has not yet been achieved. Israeli forces hit Deir el-Balah. Our colleagues at Al Jazeera are reporting that Israeli forces have hit a home in Deir el-Balah in the central Gaza Strip. It was not immediately clear how many casualties resulted from the attack. Police in Tel Aviv break up anti-Netanyahu protests. Israeli media outlets are reporting that police took action against the demonstrators, who number in the thousands, after they tried to block Kaplan Street in central Tel Aviv. The protesters are demanding elections and showing their anger at the Israeli Prime Minister for his failure to bring captives still held in Gaza home. Reports say that these protests are occurring at dozens of other locations throughout Israel's capital. Video published by one outlet shows protesters blocking Kaplan Street. My name is Kingsley. Please like, share, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to be notified whenever we post, you won't regret it.